And the reason why cash flow is so important is that's usually the end in mind when people, like, if you ask, why are you investing to begin with? It's usually so that you can stop working to receive cash flow. So we have to remember that cash flow is the metric, and think of the and asset as the key. It's simply a key that gives you options, but hopefully unlocks your ability to enhance cash flow in the future. This is Better Wealth with Caleb Guilliams. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Better Wealth Podcast. I'm here with Aaron Deemer, and we are on Chapter 6 of the And Asset Handbook. So this is the first time. Make sure to go back, get your And Asset Handbook at betterwealth.com/handbook. And this is really the part 2 that comes after you read my book and want to learn more. And we are encouraging people to really dive in. And Aaron has done a phenomenal job up until this point. So how this format works is he reads, and then at the end, I kind of give my final thoughts as it relates to that.
Chapter 6, Retirement Cash Flow. We've come a long way. We have not only covered how powerful the AND asset is and how it can be an asset that gives you both growth and control of your money. We have also covered how it's structured to be a contract that provides incredible living benefits and how it can be used and controlled throughout your lifetime. To preface this discussion of retirement cash flow, we need to get a clear picture of the real goal of retirement. When given an analogy of climbing a mountain, most people say the goal is to reach the top. However, the real goal is to both reach the top and to get back down safely. Similarly, when most people think of retirement, they think the goal is to accumulate a certain lump sum amount by the time they retire. In reality, though, they need to be planning not just for the day they hit retirement or reach the top of the mountain, but for the duration of their retirement, making it safely down the mountain again. In this chapter, we are going to show you how to get down the mountain safely without worrying about falling or getting injured along the way. The 2 biggest retirement dangers. There are 2 main dangers that we face when it comes to retirement. These will not only create risk to retirement, but could change unexpectedly at any moment. These 2 dangers are taxes and losses. The first danger is losses. These can be losses of any sort, because losses in general are extremely hard to recover from. For example, most people use a strategy called dollar cost averaging to avoid losses on their way leading to retirement, or going up the mountain. Dollar cost averaging is a term that refers to investing the same amount of money in the same stock or mutual fund at regular intervals. They ignore the fluctuations in the price of the investment. Whether it's up or down, they're putting the same amount of money into it. This means you are buying when the stocks are both low and high. The strategy is based on the idea that your returns will average out and you will come out ahead. However, this strategy actually works against you in retirement when you're coming down the mountain, when you're taking money out of your investments. You are seeing exponential losses going against your retirement account whenever you take money out. This is why losses are so crucial to avoid and why picking the right savings or retirement vehicle is so important. The second danger we want to avoid is taxes. The biggest problem with taxes is we have no way of determining what the tax rate will be in the future. Most people say they're going to be a lot higher. This makes sense because it's really hard to imagine taxes going down when we look at all the entitlement programs that have to be funded. Taxes almost have to go up. So this is definitely another big risk to your retirement. You need to minimize the damage of increasing taxation in retirement, which is exactly what the AND asset does. The 5 retirement strategies. With the 2 biggest retirement dangers in mind, we're going to talk about 5 strategies we can use as it relates to life insurance and what is probably the biggest problem as it relates to your retirement. Let's suppose that you have $1 million in your retirement account. Where that money is held is extremely important. If you held it in a traditional IRA, there's a calculation called a safe withdrawal rate, which determines how much money you can withdraw. The rate used to be 4%, also known as the 4% rule. This meant you could withdraw 4% of your assets and be pretty confident that your money would last the entirety of your potential 30 years in retirement. The problem is we're now living much longer, and we also have to account for inflation, so the safe withdrawal rate is actually much closer to 3%. So if we have $1 million, we can take out $30,000 per year. Not very much. But to make matters worse, this money is also taxable. So that $30,000 turns into an even smaller amount, closer to $24,000 or $25,000. This just goes to show that the American dream you're working so hard for could all be completely false. When we're looking at cash flow in retirement, the number one objective is to maximize what you've worked so hard for. These are the 5 core strategies that will have the greatest impact on your retirement. Here's a breakdown of how they each work. Strategy number 1, your sole retirement account. The first strategy actually involves using your life insurance policy as the sole way to fund your retirement. My good friend Brian Bloom has a book called The Capital Equivalent Value of Life Insurance. In the book, he writes, if we're going to compare cash flow from a life insurance policy and we're going to compare rates of return, we should actually compare based on cash flow in retirement rather than the growth. This makes a lot of sense because we would much rather have $50,000 of cash flow per year than $24,000 or $25,000 in retirement, even if that $50,000 is coming from a smaller lump sum number. The first thing we need to note is that if we just want to avoid taxes and losses, borrowing against the cash value in our policy can be a really solid plan to supplement income in retirement. Many clients and experts actually argue that it's one of the most effective strategies of saving for retirement. Strategy number 2, pension maximization. Strategy number 2 is something called pension maximization. Pension maximization is essentially using your cash value plan and death benefit to maximize either an annuity or a pension plan. Most pension plans either have a joint annuity or a single annuity. A joint annuity is what most people sign up for. This is where you and your spouse may have a pension or annuity. You could use this joint annuity to cover your assets and take more out today. Also, you would still have the security that if something happens to you, your death benefit will get passed on to your spouse and they'll receive a stream of income that protects their retirement. If you had a single annuity, you would get more income now, but if you pass away, the income would disappear and there would be none available for your spouse. Strategy number 3, the volatility buffer. The third strategy is the volatility buffer. In this scenario, you have an and asset alongside a market-based portfolio. If the stock market crashes, you can tap into the volatility buffer and wait until the stocks recover. It's extremely straightforward, but by simply eliminating those down years and eliminating the need to make withdrawals while your portfolio is crashing, your distribution rate will be enhanced significantly, and your chance of maintaining a steady income greatly improves. Strategy number 4, the backfill. The fourth strategy is called a backfill. In this example, let's say you have a certain amount of money in your policy and you borrow against it to invest in real estate. This loan is either compounding or is remaining the same as you're simply paying the interest but not paying down the debt. When you sell your real estate or come into possession of any large sum of money, such as selling a business or receiving an inheritance, you need somewhere to put this money. Most of the time, because of the maximum limits placed on the amount you can put into your policy, you wouldn't be able to deposit a large sum into your policy. However, since you have taken out a loan with this backfill strategy, you now have a home for that money and you can deposit a large sum all at once. Strategy number 5, reverse mortgages. The last strategy is one that is not very common, but it can have some unique benefits. It is called a reverse mortgage. A reverse mortgage is a type of loan for seniors ages 62 and older, which allows homeowners to convert their home equity into cash income with no monthly mortgage payments. Basically, if you have to pay off a house, you can go to the mortgage company and get a stream of income which gets taken from the equity in your house. If you have life insurance, how amazing would it be to say, I can have all this money tax-free because it's considered a loan, and I'm going to give my children the ability to keep the house or sell the house and keep the money. This is powerful because you are being given options that can increase your freedom and increase your peace of mind. Summary. The AND asset is an incredible asset that truly helps you take back control. Part of that control element is looking to the future and improving your future cash flow. We just looked at 5 ways the AND asset can help you optimize your retirement. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about how the AND asset can provide incredible benefits towards your legacy and your protection. Take the next step. If you're ever interested in learning more or want to find out if this is a good fit for you, you can book a free clarity call with one of our wealth coaches at a link on our website.
All right, so chapter 6, it's titled Retirement Cash Flow, and the reason why cash flow is so important is that's usually the end in mind when people, like, if you ask, why are you investing to begin with, it's usually so that you can stop working to receive cash flow. So we have to remember that cash flow is the metric, and think of the AND asset as the key. It's simply a key that gives you options, but hopefully unlocks your ability to enhance cash flow in the future. And so, I mean, the two killers here are losses and taxes and the unknowns of that. I mean, what's interesting is all this data, Monte Carlo, safe withdrawal rate, it's all looking back, but we've never had interest rates be this low and a market that high. So we are going into an unknown, waters. And I think we always have to be very careful, making decisions, in the future by looking back. I mean, it's not a bad way, but it's also, we have to understand that there are a lot of things going on. And so you got to look at, depending on where you're listening to this or you're watching this or reading this, it's where taxes are now. And do you see them going up? And do you see a potential for loss of your capital or of your money? And those are two things that need to be measured and are definitely enhanced in retirement because you have less time. Now, I think it would be really cool if we just go through these 5 strategies quick so you can kind of hear how I think about this. So strategy 1 is using the end asset as the main part of retirement. And there's pros and cons to this. And obviously it's not for everyone, but for some, they very much like the security of having their money in a private contract that has, is tax-free if set up and used properly and is safe. And we have some clients that opt in to wanting majority of their assets in something housed there, knowing that they have access to that equity to do other things. The pension maximization is this concept of there's different annuity options, whether you're using with a pension or whether you're using an annuity, and it's ultimately life insurance at its core, but it's a joint annuity will say we will pay out a smaller amount and keep paying your spouse if and when you pass away. And a single annuity says we're going to pay you a higher amount, but if you kick the bucket, you lose everything. And so what's interesting is the and asset, if set up and used properly, could be the key to help you take the more money and not have to leave your spouse worse off. So it's just, again, enhancing cash flow while also protecting you. Volatility buffer. Dr. Wade Fall has a lot of good information about this. I'm going to be having a podcast that depending on when you're listening to this, go check out my podcast, BetterWealth, with Dr. Wade Fall on this. Strategy number 4 is the backfill, just giving you options. If you have an inheritance, if you sell a business, if you're selling real estate, it's like the first world problem of having money and wanting a good place to put it. And then reverse mortgage is another concept of you have an and asset. It enhances and unlocks and gives you options of different solutions. And this is just another way of your and asset unlocking your house and potentially giving you more options to spend in retirement. So again, Aaron, great job. And this is definitely a hard chapter to communicate. And I think you did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the BetterWealth podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.